Hey everybody, it's Kenny K here again, and I'm going back to my roots and I'm gonna revisit Friday the 13th from 1980, directed by Sean S. Cunningham, and gets a 6.4 IMDb, gets a 7 from me. Now, this is gonna be a review, spoiler review by the way. It's gonna be a pros and a cons. I'm gonna give you a action figure you can buy if you've got collectors, just one. I'm gonna put a best and worst character in there. I'm gonna put the best kill in there and put pictures, of course, of these people in there. And I'm gonna put some fun facts, some with pictures, some don't. Okay, so of course Friday 13 is the child of Halloween. You know, Victor Miller, the writer, went to John Carpenter, basically Deborah Hill, and said, "Listen, can we rip off your movie?" And they said, "You do what you want with it." At that time, I don't think they were really planning to make a second one. Although Irwin LaBlance was the producer of Halloween, one of the producers of Halloween. The biggest one was Mustafa Akkad. He had a 3 picture deal, Carpenter, with LaBlance, Halloween being one of them, The Fog being the second, and I believe Escape from LA, Escape from New York being the second. I'm not sure. Now they went to him for funding. He didn't want to do any horror movies again. Now this movie had a budget of $550,000, which is $200,000 no $230,000 more than Halloween did. Halloween had $320,000. Of course, you have Kevin Bacon playing Jack, one of the counselors, Betsy Palmer as Mrs. Voorhees, and Adrienne King as Alice. Now these 3 actors, also Bill, one of the counselors, was David Crosby and is the son of Bing Crosby, a known songwriter, put the picture up here, and a singer. Maybe that's the way he got the role. Most of them were amateur Broadway actors. Now Kevin Bacon already had experience because he did a kind of National Lampoon's frat boy movie before this. Betsy Palmer did mostly child and family movies, you know, happy, cheery movies, and now she had to play a psycho bitch, basically. And Adrienne King apparently had a little bit more experience than the other ones. Other counselors being Annie, Marcy being the girlfriend of Jack, Kevin Bacon, Bill, Brenda, Bill being David Crosby, Brenda and Ned being the comedic relief of the movie. Now the story is very simple. It's basically you've got a group of camp counselors coming together in a camp that's not completely ready. Steve Christie, the owner, is also a character. The owner of the camp, the Christies basically own Crystal Lake, the camp Crystal Lake, because there's going to be a series of Friday the 13th with a woman called Kay Christie. Now I'm thinking, but that may be her sister or aunt or something. I'm not sure, because that will play in the 50s, because if you go back to the incident when Jason drowned, that was in 1957. In 1958, 2 people were killed, and that's how the movie starts. 1958, they're all saying hallelujah, and then a stupid song, a song that, you know, a camp song, and 2 of these counselors go out to fuck. Now, what happened, if you know the movie, Jason drowned while 2 of these counselors were fucking each other, and that's the reason why he drowned. So the killer isn't particularly happy with counselors having sex, especially having sex. Now, of course, the movie starts off with the guy who gets killed. Now, this guy's name was Adam Mills or something, and he was actually a cameraman after the kill. He was more behind the movie, but he did that kill scene. He was the kill. Then the girl, her name I forget her name. She was actually supposed to die in a horrible way. Her throat would have been slit, but they had two reasons. Tom Savini did special effects, and they were already bordering on the edge of an X rating movie, you know. So they got an R rating, and I believe there is an uncut version. Now the uncut version does only lets you see the kills a little bit longer, and it's an ANC 17 rating. So it's basically between an R rating and an X rating. And Tom Savini wanted to keep it ambiguous, you know, what's to come, right? So we've got Annie. We follow Annie, this girl, walking through the town of Crystal Lake, which looks pretty deserted to me. And you think, oh, that's our main character. She's sweet, she's cute, she looks like a, you know, somebody who can handle herself. And she goes into this diner, everybody's quiet when she asks the way to Camp Crystal Lake. They all call it Camp Blood, of course. She can hitch a ride with one of the truckers halfway, and that crazy Ralph comes and he says, "You're doomed, you're all doomed," right? And we all think that Annie, basically, if you see the movie, is our main girl, is gonna be our final girl, actually, because there's so much intention put on Annie that you think, okay, this is gonna be our main girl. She's gonna arrive. So I always had the idea, if you watch the movie the first time, she eventually gets picked up by the killer, but she escapes and she arrives at the camp completely exhausted, maybe one survivor left, killed by the killer too, like Alice, for example, Adrian King. And she has to deal with the killer, or she dies at the camp. That was always my idea if you saw the movie for the first time. But no, they actually give her a pretty cruel kill, because the way, I never seen such a great throat slit in my life done in a special effect, in a practical effect. You see the knife going like this, and then you see the skin opening very slowly, and the blood pouring out. The more it opens, the more it pours out. It was really done well, and it was actually a little prosthetic with a lot of blood in, and all the hand scenes you see, like the swiping of the knife, the last scene where Pamela is beheaded, you know, those were all Tom Savini's hands. You can see the hair on his knuckles. That was a little thing that they didn't see. But everything, like even when Kevin Bacon gets killed, every hand you see is basically Tom Savini's hand. Betsy Palmer just comes in way later when she's revealed as Miss Voorhees, or Pamela Voorhees, as the killer. Also, the name Jason is revealed when she introduces herself and says his name was Jason. And that's how we know his name is Jason. Now, of course, these camp counselors are stalked by the killer, and they're all just killed one by one. It's a very simple story. You got these camp counselors, You got a few horny ones, and they're all killed one by one. There's also this insinuation between Alice and Steve Christie, the owner, that they had sex the night before, because he does this almost, in my opinion, sexual assault kind of vibe, rapey vibe that he gave, because he caresses her hair, but she's like doing like that. She didn't want to be caressed, and I think she had this affair with him or a hookup for one night. But apparently, the facts are that she had an on and off relationship with Bill, and you can see that in the end of the movie when she's really um, doing the strip monopoly, and she's really wanting to see Bill, and they're kind of flirting with each other, and also she always wants to go with Bill, and she trusts Bill, and and so on. Now, of course, the other counselors arrive: Kevin Bacon, Jack, Marcy, and Ned. Bill, Brenda, and then Alice and Steve Christie are already there. Annie, of course, being killed and slaughtered in the woods, is absent, and I was kind of sad, because she really wanted to do that job, and she was really wanting to work with these kids, and and then you get this absolute mindfuck that they just kill her off. And it was really well done by Steve Cunningham to put us off the scent. Who's going to be the final girl? Really well done. It's a rip-off, but not completely. He did his own thing, in my opinion. He did his own thing. Now, everybody gets off. The first one who gets off, luckily, is Ned. He's the comedic relief. He walks in a cabin, gets his throat slit off screen, but then when Jack and Marcy want to have some sexy time, he's lying on the top bunk bed, and they're having sex on the lower bed. She goes and wash herself, and then you get of course, one of the coolest scenes in the movie. The first, the blood, of course, that drips on his head, and he sees this, and then up the hand on his head, and then the spear point through his neck. No, it's never supposed to be that bloody that it was squirting out. It's supposed to be that it was seeping out, but because of Tom Savini was putting so much pressure while holding this guy, he put too much pressure, and that's the reason why it squirted out, but it made it desto more horrifying, right? So it was actually a good choice. After that, of course, Marcy gets it, and they wanted to show you that the axe that they used was a real axe by hitting the lamp first, and then that was with steel, a steel lamp cover, hitting it, so you see it's a real axe. Boom, right in Marcy's face. Pretty gory kill. Now, Tom Savini always said, I like to work with as much as real weapons and as much as the body humanly possible without hurting the actor, right? Because of his time as a photographer, a war photographer in Vietnam. He saw all those wounds. He knows how these wounds are made. He basically has the know-how, and that's his private skill. Nobody really. Tom Savini is the godfather of special effects, because he was the guy who really wanted to use real weapons. Some were like in the Prowler, for example, they were like sabotaged, but some of them weren't, and they used a prosthetic piece where it was dangerous, really dangerous. If the actor just slightly bent it, like Marcy did, she would get the axe straight in her face. So it was dangerous. But at the time, a very, ingenious, Look at The Prowler, bad movie, but extremely great special effects. Tom Savini still boasts about it, that it's the best, and it probably is. It probably is, of his special effects. Now after that, Annie gets killed. No, Annie, sorry. Brenda gets killed because they're playing strip Monopoly, but the wind, there's rain like hell. It's storming, and she forgot to close her windows, so she's going to her cabin to go to sleep. But then she hears this child noise. Now we all know that Mrs. Voorhees can replicate a child's voice when she says, "Kill her, mommy, kill her," because the sound is actually from kill, 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 mama. So that's the original, that's what Harry Manfredini said, the composer of the movie, really great soundtrack composer, and he did a great job on this movie actually. For this kind of movie, a little bit of Hitchcockian, Psycho in there. Now she gets killed off screen on the archery range, and then the next one also gets sadly killed off screen. Now Steve Christy comes back because he had some errands to do, but his car broke down. He got arrived by one of the police officers. He came through that rain, and he gets a light shine in his face, and he gets a knife punched in his belly, and that's the only thing we see. Later on, we see him hanging from a tree upside down. Now the killer, being Pamela Voorhees, a almost, let's say, and almost 60-year-old woman, has the power to throw a body through the window, has the power to hoist probably the heaviest guy of Steve Christy in a tree, and then hoist the guy and pin him against a wall. And that's Bill. Bill's kill is probably the most gnarly kill of them all. Luckily we see the aftermath of him, and later on I'm gonna come back to this. Now Alice, of course, being the final girl, least favorite of all, least favorite final girl of all. She, now when Pamela Voorhees says, "Listen, I'm the killer," she's going like, "Ah!" You know, crazy bitch. Personally, I'm much more scared of that than a slowly walking Jason. Yeah, like that. But she's so easy to just, she does something like, ugh, and she flaunts her away against a against the couch and runs away. Again, she could have killed her right then and there because the knife falls. Then after that, she goes to a cabin where they've got guns. But I'm thinking, okay, what kind of ammo is she gonna use? Pellet guns? Because kids with real guns and ammo? And she's trying to unlock the lock where all the ammo is, but I'm thinking, what, is she gonna use a pellet gun? Now of course she hears this, she comes in, and the cool thing is she's throwing everything towards her, and she's like this, and she's slapping her for real. Now apparently Adrienne King, the actress, was crying and saying, she slapped me for real. And then Betsy Palmer says, well, that's what we do in the show business. And then Steve Cunningham came and said, you know, best not slap her for real, but you know, nowadays people say slap me, but you know, mosquito slaps, you know, oh, you know, like that. But that doesn't hurt. And that's what she did. Like this. I mean, that doesn't hurt, but she was a big crybaby in my opinion. Now, I have to say, Betsy Palmer was also a big bitch. She read the script of Victor Miller. What she did was, what a piece of trash, what a piece of shit. Boom, right in the trash. And she went away. Adrienne King consoled Victor Miller, who almost was crying because his script was just thrown in the trash by probably the most experienced actor of the movie. And eventually she came back, and I actually would be like, fuck you, bitch. But she needed a new car. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, if you're so famous and you're this and that, you know, don't you have money for a new car? It appears she was broke. So, okay. I mean, she was kind of a bitch. And that is sometimes the thing, you know, with people like Adrienne King consoling him, why she wasn't famous yet. Now, now she never became famous, but now the thing is, if you're not famous, you're still a human. If you're famous in Hollywood, it looks like you look. Not, I'm not saying that any actor has that, but all actors lose their humanity. It's almost like they become assholes or bitches. One or the two. Take your pick. Now, eventually, she came back. And then, of course, they have the scuffle on the beach. First, the scuffle in the pantry where she uses a skillet. And now she's really bleeding, Pamela Voorhees, when she hits her. And the machete's right. And then you think, oh, Alice, please take the machete and stab her. Take. No. She goes to. Now, I would think maybe her car, but check her car out if the keys are still in there, you know. Then she, okay, I know Annie's in there, that Annie, but if you have a car, just drive away. No, she goes to the beach, a canoe, and she thinks Mrs. Voorhees is dead by just a skillet hit on the head. And she saw some blood. Of course, Mrs. Voorhees behind her with the machete. She can take the oar and she breaks the oar with the machete. She takes the oar, tries to, you know, stab her with it, and then we get the famous scene where she finally takes the machete, Adrienne King, you know, Alice, and decapitates Mrs. Voorhees. And then, of course, the famous shot with the hands with the ring on and the knuckle thing, and the hairy knuckles of Tom Savini doing this, because the head was anatomically correct apparently, but that, okay. Now, first of all, let's talk about the worst character of the movie, Ned. I hated him. I hated the guy. He almost killed Brenda on the archery range, and he was such a frustrating character. When the police arrived and told about Ned, he was always doing stupid things. He was dressed like an Indian. I'm Tonto. He was childlike, irritating. You know, like a 10-year-old that wouldn't shut up. That's how I perceive him to be. So I hated Ned, and it's a shame that he actually got killed off screen. And actually a pretty lame kill. Gene Siskel said that Siskel and Ebert, those two, luckily Fangoria came out with a broader perspective of horror movies, but those two didn't have any perspective for horror movies. They could not understand why people would like this. He said that the movie was misogynistic, that the women got it harder than the men. Now, of course, Marcy got the axe. Brenda was killed off screen, I'm guessing with arrows. And Annie was her throat slit. Ned's throat slit. Jack was penetrated by an arrow, and Bill was, I mean, so here, okay, before, my favorite character is Betsy Palmer. The way she acted, Pamela Voorhees, the way she acted was so great, from nice to sad to complete psycho bitch to complete psycho bitch hearing her son, kill her, mommy, kill her now. I mean, from going from family movies to this and hating the script, I have to say she did a great job, even when she was a bitch with the script. I have to say. So that was my favorite character. Now my favorite kill, you would say, oh yeah, that's Kevin Bacon for sure. No, it's Bill. If you see what she did to Bill, oh my god. If we saw that kill happening, I really don't understand how it happened. So he had 2 arrows here, I believe. I have the picture. I'm gonna put the picture up. He had a arrow right through the eye, and I think he was hoisted. Now, was he flown against the door by the arrows? I can't believe that, because an arrow doesn't have that power. So I'm guessing she stabbed him and pinned him, hoisted him and stabbed him. So again, power out of nowhere. Power she didn't have against Alice, for sure. And she then proceeded to slit his throat violently. The guy was completely mutilated. And that's my favorite kill scene. Let's just say scene. Aftermath scene. So not Kevin Bacon, but that one, because he got it all. He got arrows through the body, a knife probably through the chest to be pinned up. He got an arrow through the eye. He got his throat slit violently because it really was completely open. I mean, this guy really, she really went on town with him. So now for the people who want to collect things, I do like to collect. There's an action figure out. A few people may know NECA, which these figurines are these boxed figurines. I'll put a picture on there. And you've got a new one, Pamela Voorhees, and it's a really great sculpted figurine, $45. And you got a lot of them, you know. You've got from Friday the 13th Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, Part 5. You've got from Halloween. You've got from all these different horror movies, and they really are detailed. If you like that sort of stuff, or if you just want one, a Pamela Voorhees maybe would be a good pick, because she has 4 like different heads with 4 different facial expressions: the happy one, the sad one, the crazy one, and the yelling one, you know. So yeah, just for people out there who want to collect it. Now there's also this now Betsy Palmer sadly died in 2015. Rest in peace, Betsy. Now there is this interesting fact that now this was comic, so not canon, but it's the best that we're gonna get out of the father of Jason. His name was Elias Voorhees. He was a drunk. He was a abuser to Pamela and to his son, because he was a mongoloid. He was ashamed of him. He hit him multiple times, and Pamela got sick of it and plunged a machete right through his head. And I've got and that was illustrated in a comic book, and I've got a few of these comic scenes, so I'll put them up so you can see, to give you a little bit of a perspective of who the dad of Jason was. So actually, it's actually really, if that's the true story of Jason, I gotta say it's a really sad story. You got a dad that just beat him to hell because he was a mongoloid, you know. He couldn't, a mother that loved her son, beaten by this horrible guy, had to kill him because almost self-defense, because he was running after Jason to, you know, hit him with a belt, and she was sick of it. And then he loses, and then he drowns because these 2 counselors decide to fuck. and they knew Jason wasn't a normal kid and had needed special attention. And then, you know, how would you be? You know, how would you be? I wouldn't go on a killing rampage, but I would definitely go to these two council members and hit the hell out of them. You know, knock some teeth out. You know, that's something I would do to get my, especially with the guy, I would just fuck him up beyond all recognition. You can be sure of that. I mean, how would you be? You have to think the state of mind of Pamela Voorhees. Now again, killing everybody who had nothing to do with it is of course overkill. Killing people is bad in any way, but at least, you know, giving somebody some punishment, you know, some physical punishment. Now, also Adrienne King had a dangerous stalker, a really dangerous stalker, and I mean a guy who was standing in her apartment with a knife, wanting to kill her, being Pamela Voorhees. He wanted to reenact the scene that he would kill her. He would be the one that kills the final girl. So this movie had this influence on this crazy motherfucker who wanted to kill the actress Adrienne King. In his mind, Alice, the final girl. How fucked up is that? And she said, and she basically didn't do Comic Cons for 20 years. She disappeared for 20 years. The only thing she wanted to do was a very small role in Friday the 13th Part 2, because they asked her to come back, and she said a very, very small role. Then they killed her off and just go on. Now personally, something that I always kind of thought was, you got Jason, right? You got the ending where Jason takes Alice in the water, and if you see that picture here, he looks like a zombie. You know, he looks like his skin is rotten. He looks zombified. Now, this is the original picture of him drowning, and you can see clearly that it's the same age, same build, only the other one is of course like zombie. Now then she says, okay, she was in the boat and then she was taken out of the water by the police, and then she says, did you find the boy? The boy Jason? No, we only found you. Then he's still out there. And then you have that beautiful silent but eerie music, and then you see that drop of water on the water of Crystal Lake, kind of giving you that it's you know, these directors didn't have a clue what's gonna happen with these movies. Like Halloween, John Carpenter didn't have a clue what's gonna happen with that movie. Sean S. Cunningham didn't have a clue, so they thought, okay, I'm gonna make a few $1,000 and I'm happy, right? John Carpenter just made $100 million on his fucking movie, and he ended the movie with a completely open ending, but thinking it wouldn't get a sequel, but an ambiguous ending that Michael Myers couldn't be killed, right? And then you hear him breathing all over the places he's being, really creepy, really cool. But then of course, what do you expect? The people who put money in that see this as a cash cow. Same with Friday the 13th. It got worldwide $60 million. Again, low budget, $60 fucking million. You gotta expect, right? I mean, and then you've got this kind of weird thing going on. So 6 months later, Alice is still in Crystal Lake because she wants to, you know, take care of her problems there. But then we go to the killer, Jason, who is at that time, I'm guessing, because he looked the same as he looked when he drowned. He looked like a boy of between 10 and 15 years old. So let's say he's 15 years old. 6 months later, he's still 15 years old, and he kills Alice. And then we go 6 years later, so he would be in his 20s. Now the thing that doesn't compute here is that he drowned in 1957, so he would be in his 40s or something. Right? And the guy who put her underwater wasn't a old man. No. So, and that's also the reason why Tom Savini didn't want to come back with the second movie, because he had something like, no, he's dead, and how the hell are they gonna do this? So they kind of retconned. They didn't retcon the ending, but they kind of made something of it, and they kind of retconned the date when he drowned. That's what they retconned, the date when he drowned in 1957. That he would be a 20-year-old guy in part 2. Also, the MPAA said, listen, we gave you a break on this one. We don't want as much gore in the second one, and you can see that in the second one there's a lot less gore or explicit violence than in the first one. Now, of course, with the uncensored version, I've got the fan edit, which is grainy VHS looking, but you still can see the best 2 kills in it, which is the kill where the guy hangs upside down, knife, you know, he gets his knife, his throat cut, and the blood's all pouring down his face. And then, of course, the spear kill, which is a lot longer and a lot more horrifying than it was supposed to be. That's for another time. Also, something weird is that this movie was actually based on a real life story that happened in Finland, in a camp called Bodom and Camp Lake Bodom in Finland. Real life murders. What the fuck? I did not know that. I did not know that. So, and the real camp's name was No B. I wrote it down, you know. No B Boko. No B Bosco. No B Bosco. Okay. And I never really thought that New Jersey, because it was in New Jersey, that the forest of New Jersey was, that they had so many forest area. I thought New Jersey, you know, next to New York was busy and not a lot of greenery, you know. And apparently it was really isolated, that camp, and the only one living in the neighborhood was a guy named Lou Reed. Now he's a very famous frontman of a group called, now I'm not really famous with singer's name, Lou Reed from the Velvet Underground, and he then became a solo career too. And he apparently he was every day on set when filming was ended that day. He played his guitar, everybody was drinking a beer, and David Crosby also could play the guitar because of his dad, and they were playing, you know, duets. And he was apparently a really nice guy. If you know Lou Reed, I'll put a picture on him so you know who it is, but I never heard of him. I'm not a good I don't know a lot of singers. So yeah, that's about it. It's a, you know, the pros of this movie are, it's simple. You got cool kills. You got creepy and tense moments. Creepy location. Good soundtrack. Creepy killer. on the fence, the acting. Now I'm saying Betsy Palmer was a great actor. Now the acting was good what it was supposed to be, because there wasn't a lot of acting, you know, there. You know, there wasn't a lot of fleshing out the characters. The only one that I really hated was Ned, and his acting was bad. And I hate that they killed a real snake. I love animals, and I don't want to see a snake just being killed for the sake of a fucking movie. Just put a rubber snake in there, chop it, and you have the same fucking effect. No, it had to be a real snake. Okay. And those are the cons. So the acting was sometimes hammy from some characters, not all. And the real snake, I didn't like that. Sorry, I like animals. I have 2 cats, like a dog, fish. I mean, and I'm thinking, is there something else? Maybe the characters should have been fleshed out a little bit more. That's why I had the impression that Annie would be the final girl, because if you have to look at all the characters, it looks like Annie is the most fleshed out character of the entire movie. She had the most things to say. She said why she's doing it. She said she scoffed at the fact that, you know, everybody was so suspicious about it. You know, she had the most, again, not enough fleshing out, but she was the most fleshed out character. And Pamela Voorhees had a very, very short fleshing out, that she's the mom from the boy that drowned there. And nobody, as far as I know, in the movie suggested that. Yeah, they did say the killings happened, the water poison, the trucker said the 2 killings, or the 2 counselors, that the place was set on fire, that the water was bad, poisoned. So everything to keep the camp, you know, closed down. But they never said something about Jason or a boy that drowned or something. So yeah, that's the cons. The snake, some of the characters that I just did not like Ned. He was the only character, and a few characters like the police officer on the bike. He was really hammy. He actually couldn't ride a bike, and you can see that because he almost falls when he takes the U-turn. He was kind of hammy and stupid. Ralph, the Prophet of Doom. I was actually really glad that he died. He croaks in the second movie. Spoiler, sorry. And that they didn't flesh the characters out enough. That it was really, here are the counselors, Steve Christie goes away, and the killing starts. Boom. So that's about it. I hope you enjoyed the movie, and I see you later with more cool content. Also do a found footage movies in there, more recent found footage too. So I'll keep you up to speed. Bye bye.